and welcome back to Knott's TV Book Club, a time and place to talk about books with me, Becky Cullen. We've got a psychological murder for you in book club this month, and joining me to analyse the perpetrators are Nottingham Central Library's Laura Ironmonger. Hi Laura. School librarian to be, Jaden Morton. And author and life coach, Adam Goodman-Smith.
Hello.
Hello, Adam. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Happy 2025. We're all staying alive. Laura, what's going on at the library this year?
Well, in keeping with the new year, lots of people are thinking about New Year's resolutions or making a fresh start in life, perhaps. Maybe your New Year's resolution is read more. Then libraries are perfect places to source your materials at zero cost.
Yeah.
Or maybe you want to take up a new hobby, for instance.
You may.
So many materials to learn from.
Laura, how do we actually join the library? What do we need to do?
You can either take yourself along to your local library or you can join online. It's really, really easy. It's a simple form to fill in, a little bit of ID and off you go.
That means 2 forms of ID, not the peace sign, although peace to all and love to all librarians. Yes, good.
Absolutely.
Hello, Jaden.
Hiya.
What are your reading and writing resolutions for 2025?
So I'm setting some pretty gentle writing resolutions. I'm trying to go for like 500 words a week, 500 words a week of fiction that feels edited and like controlled. And then I'd like to read more young adult novels this year.
Very good. Are you writing 500 words about a theme or a character? Where do you start?
Specific project in mind, probably more writing outside of that, but in terms of like this project, I really want to finish at least 500 words a week.
Great.
It's not huge, just
Manageable.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And lovely Adam, you've got a special anniversary, haven't you? Happy birthday. Tell us all about
Thank
it.
you. Yeah, so the Way the Diva was 1 year old just before Christmas. So my mission this year is the same as last year. It's to help people go into 2025 with more confidence, self-esteem, backing themselves a bit more, standing up for themselves and doing more of the stuff that they love.
Yes, Queen. Thank you. That's very lovely. So, shall we get on with it? Okay. Our book of the month is the second novel from author Eliza Clark. Penance tells the story of the gruesome murder of Joan Wilson in Crow-on-Sea, a fictional seaside town between Scarborough and Whitby. In true crime style, the book pieces together the lives of the 3 girls responsible for Joan's murder through their interviews, diaries and the first-hand accounts of people who know them. Penance is a compulsive narrative examining the causes and effects of violence against the backdrop of the decay of coastal communities. Okay, panel, I have to make a confession. The second time of reading this book, there was far more violence in it than I actually remembered. And I couldn't remember why I didn't remember the violence the first time around. And there's quite a lot of graphic detail in this book. Do you think, the first question is, what do you think about this level of violence in literature? And does it actually need a trigger warning, do you think? Let's start with you, Jaden.
Oh, short answer, no, I don't think it needed a trigger warning as long as it's being read by adults. For young people, yeah. But I think that the level of violence, the description of the murder of the charred body that survives for some time is really dark, but very much in line with how Eliza Clark writes.
Yeah. Okay, good. Laura, what are you thinking?
It's horrific, there's no getting around it, but that kind of seizes you as you start to read it, and knowing that it's going to be an exploration of why, who, then that kind of draws you in a little.
The fact, yeah, I mean, I can see it in your face, Laura. You're not happy with it.
But you feel a bit awful being drawn in by it in a way.
Exactly. So what did you think, Adam? Was this a compelling start for you?
It was, and I think I totally agree. It does draw you in to the point where I forgot I was reading fiction and I was actually wanting to Google.
I know there's lots of people who've Googled it to see if it's real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's a testament, to Eliza's writing.
Yeah. Yeah, the characters then. So let's we don't want to give too much away. Actually, I don't really want to talk about the murder at all. So we're in this realm where we've got interviews. So there's 3 girls implicated in this murder. And there's interviews with girl A, girl B, girl C. There's also extracts from their diaries. And there's passages which are constructed parts of the story by the journalist who's putting all this together. Did you find this kind of true crime structure interesting or compelling? Was it a real page turner? Was there any point that you thought, oh no, I can't be doing with this? Who wants to start? Adam wants to start.
Yeah, I'm happy to say it was a difficult read for me because it's complex. It's really clever, but it's complex and it's incredibly detailed. So some of those not so nice moments are presented in graphic detail as if we were there. So from that point of view, I found it, difficult. And also trying to figure out who's talking here.
Well, that's a really good point, isn't it? Because the journalist is so invested in telling the story. What did you think about the kind of the different styles of narrative on the other sofa?
I found for me at times it broke up my enjoyment and the flow of reading. And then you think, well, there's part of it where I feel like I'm reading a story, and then there's part of it where I feel like I'm reading lots of separate pieces, and how do I link them all together? But then as the novel progresses, that kind of eases a little bit to me.
Does it make the story then less believable?
I don't think so, no. No, I think it's just as a reader, it's an unfamiliar journey through a novel, really.
What do you think? Why do you think the writer chose to do that, Jayden?
I think I have many thoughts about this book. I think it's fantastic. So I think Eliza Clark had an incredibly successful debut where she sort of did one type of dark thriller.
So this is boy parts, isn't it? Yeah.
Whereas I think she shifted. I think she's flexing her muscles, showing she can do lots of different narratives in one. I think that we could sit and unpick about 8 different themes in this book. I also think that the Russian doll effect of it being a book within a book with this like sort of fictional critique of how true journalism should work being sandwiched outside of it. The name of the journalist in the book is an anagram of Eliza Clark's name. So there's sort of messaging about Eliza on the outside creating a piece of fiction, creating a character who's warping the truth of another piece that warps between fiction and non-fiction and true crime. He's lost control of it, but she's the puppet master out of control. I think it's very clever. I think that, yeah, some of it did lose me a little bit. I think there's a lot of detail creating the place Crow-on-Sea and a lot of the stories around it that I'm like, oh, feels less relevant, but like, I see why you're doing this. I see that you want to be creating true crime and showing that you're a amazing creator of like character and place. And I think that like the balance was great for me, but I was like, whoa, we're really reading a lot, like at some points.
Yeah, there's a lot, isn't there?
Yeah.
And I think for the point for me was where it got onto the Tumblr posts as well. And you're reading a lot of posts from the true crime community. What did you make of that?
Gosh, I think the biggest thing I walked away thinking actually was just what a tricky time it is to be a young person in this day and age with social media. And I think it was so beautifully presented that I found it in a way troubling, the sort of darkness of what goes on online. Of course, it's very different.
But you don't necessarily recognise.
Don't recognise, yeah. I mean, even some of the social media platforms. But, I was thinking, when I was at school, if you wanted to bully somebody, you had to look up their parents in the phone book. And now it's so easy to be able to send these dreadful messages.
Yeah, in lots of anonymous ways.
Exactly. Yeah, so I'm still dealing with what I think about that.
Yeah, it's very complex, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, we'll get back to the book in the second half. Laura's not saying everything she's thinking, I can tell now. But thanks for now. We went out and about to ask the people of Nottingham for a crime fiction recommendation, and this is what they came up with.
I would recommend Sherlock Holmes, the adventure of a single man in the police department, and and he likes to explore criminal activity. It's just him that's able to solve it. Therefore, he's needed in every kind of circumstance, if you want to say. If you're interested in crime and mystery, I would definitely recommend it. I think it's a lot of suspense.
So we've just finished the Sweet Bee series by CJ Skews. I've read the first one, I think it was like free on Kindle or something like that, and just got absolutely hooked. It's just fascinating. It's a weird mix of kind of humour and crime and little twists and turns that you're not expecting. I think having that insight into, we read a lot of crime books and it's about men kind of committing crimes and perpetuating crime. So it's interesting to read about a woman. The kind of concept of a journal was really nice to read from. I suppose it's a different perspective of reading from a book, because quite often you're reading from kind of a third person perspective in a book, whereas this was very much first person, which I really enjoyed. But quite like Harlan Coben. Historical crime is quite good as well, so if you read Pompeii and things like that, where it's a little bit more intricate, so there's kind of elements of crime, but there's a lot of elements of like real history in there as well.
That's great. Thank you very much for those recommendations. And we'll be back after the break for more book chat with the panel and recommendations from Jaden on our lovely green sofa. See you very soon. Don't forget that you can catch up on demand at notstv.com or have a look at official YouTube for Knots TV and find all the past episodes.
The way you're able to almost pause time and really excavate that moment and all of the internal emotions that have come along with it.
Hello again and welcome back to Knots TV Book Club, a time and place to talk about books with me, Becky Cullen. This month we're discussing Penance, a true crime reconstruction of a murder in a northern seaside town. Before the break, we asked you for your crime recommendations, and I wondered, panel, which books of a criminal nature you have to recommend? Laura, you look as though you're about to do something criminal. What is it?
I'm going to recommend the first book by Belinda Bauer called Blacklands. She's gone on to write lots of crime fiction since then, but this is one, and it's not a new one at all, it's a good 10 years old, but it really stuck in my mind because it's an examination of the fallout from a terrible crime that descends through generations and involves a young boy who just wants to make his family heal after the death of an uncle in childhood, and he ends up writing to the child killer in prison, and so there's this awful creeping sense of dread throughout the novel. It's really, really well done.
Very compelling.
Yes, extremely.
Very compulsive.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Laura. It looks very good. Jaden?
Yeah, I mean,
have you read any books that are crime?
I'm not huge on crime. I did watch Missing You on Netflix, which is based off Harlan Cobden's book, Missing You. And the themes of concealing the truth and revealing the truth kind of were really amazing. So
I like that. I like those twists. How about you?
Yeah, likewise. True crime's not really my thing, but over Christmas got absolutely hooked on Black Doves.
Well, who wouldn't?
It was incredible. Keira Knightley, assassins, secret agents, assassins of assassins. A really good watch.
And can I say, lovely home furnishings.
Lovely home
furnishings.
And
Did you
set
notice that?
in London over Christmas.
Yeah.
So it's perfect.
Perfect. That's what we love. That's great. So, on that note then, so two of the people, well, I'm not really into crime fiction either, to be honest. And I just wondered, because it's a really huge genre, and all of these, like the Harlan Coben books, they're really popular on Netflix. Do you think, and other streaming platforms, do you think that there's something about the way we are fascinated with crime? What does it say about us that we fall into these crime novels, that there's such a big market? Adam, you're a life coach. Give us all the answers, Adam.
My gosh, I'm sure there's a really deep psychological connection to be made here, but the honest answer is I don't know. All I do know is I wasn't quite sure I liked who I became while I was reading it, because I wanted more details. I wanted to go on the tour of the town. At the end, I wanted to Google. I was thinking, what is going on here? There's something about our innate curiosity for those kind of things that that does something to us. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I like it, but it's there.
I think I recognise that instinct as well, that, you know, of being hungry for more detail. What happened? Did you become a monster while you were reading, Jaden?
No, but no queen. But I did read a book last year. I read some essays from a book called Surveillance Capitalism, which some of the essays like unpick how social media forces us, tricks something in our brain called our negativity bias to make us doom scroll. So like the same reason sometimes when you see something terrible happen in another country and then you scroll through Twitter reading every single little detail, I think it's possibly part survival instinct, part piece of our brain wants to know the full story if it's dark, to maybe protect ourselves. Maybe that part of our brain is being triggered.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. When I was reading this, I didn't massively feel like I was using my true crime brain. I'm a big fan of a true crime podcast, but I think I was more interested in how this author had put this story together.
Yeah, and I think using you're right, there are two levels. There's kind of there's lots of different levels. Oh, it gets very confusing. So there's a distrust between the characters, the distrust of any institution or adult, really, because there's no happy family anywhere in this book. And then there's distrust of the journalist, and then there's distrust of the author. You get this kind of prism or this idea that everything's fractured and dissolute. Was it that dramatic for you, Laura, do you think?
I think
Am I being melodramatic, Laura?
I don't think so, Becky. No. And like you say, there were so many different layers within it. But what also struck me was the way that the characters, their internal life and their release, and one of the characters recreating their own, like, a personal hell within a game, within
The poor Polly
something,
Pockets.
and Sims, innocuous pastimes, but with a really, really dark side to them. Really quite disturbing.
The details about the school made me think about Grange Hill, because I was thinking that all the adults, when Grange Hill was on, used to say, "Oh no, that doesn't happen in schools," but it does. You know, there is Tucker in real. Anyway, but what about the school violence? Is there I'm calling it school violence rather than bullying for a reason, because it does get really violent, and the way that you are entirely on the victim's side, and then when you find out about some of the things that they've done at school, things change around and you think, oh my God, have I interpreted this correctly? It all becomes very jangling and jarring. What about that, Jaden?
Yeah, I think that she does a great job of creating the idea that there is no perfect victim. I think the mean girl culture is done excellently. I think, especially because I feel that because me and the author are similar in age, we would have been roughly at school at the same time, on Tumblr at the same time. A lot of it felt really real. I mean, the escalation to the violence, obviously I didn't experience, but I think that I saw the path of that, and the obsession with the obsession with the boys incarcerated for murder, tracking with my obsession with One Direction, very different paths, but it's a similar sort of teenage fixation, and it all felt really believable.
Well, I love Harry Styles, that's almost killing me. Anyway, so final comment for you, Adam. Sum it up for us. Why should we read this book or not? What is it going to do for us? Or shall we just leave it for another time? What do you think?
Oh my gosh, do you know what? I think to be able to take in this book, you need to be in a good place, and also because so much is left open. I like everything tied up in a neat bow, a happy ending, and there's not one. So if this is your thing, go for it. But actually, if you prefer something that's a bit easier read and you like a nice resolution at the end, then maybe this isn't for you. That's just my point of view.
So be careful.
Yeah.
Be considerate with yourself, and know that it's got some violent content, and think carefully about what you're doing and where you're doing it.
That's perfect. Set and maintain those boundaries is what I talk about all day, every day.
Thank you, Adam. And on that note, we are going to hand over to Jaden Morton, who's going to give us some recommendations. Should we do that now?
Let's.
Jaden, hello.
Hello.
How lovely to see you. You have some lovely book recommendations for us.
I
And you're
do.
able to do them from the green sofa.
I know, in person.
It's lovely. So, lay it on us.
So we're shifting quite dramatically from true crime to the new year and self-improvement and self-development. I've got 3 books, starting with Adam Goodman Smith's The Way of the Diva. Something that I feel like when I was researching was like, oh my God, I wish I had that this year. 2024. 2024 threw really strange, like difficult things at me that like, as I'm getting older, things just happen and you have to be able to advocate for yourself. I shifted jobs, I moved out of my house, different things happened and I needed to have difficult conversations with other adults that I kind of wish I had some guidance on how to do that.
And this book does it.
Yeah, absolutely. In a really like unique way, finding your voice. Beautiful.
Thank you. That's lovely. Beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you for writing it, Queen.
And your second book is by Dr. Rangan Chatterjee.
Yeah, so it's called Make Change That Lasts. It's a habits-based book that focuses on wellness. Habits is something I've really wanted to look into over the past few years, but a lot of habit books are through the lens of like capitalism and productivity, and this one's based on wellness. And he's like the lovely handsome doctor you see on telly sometimes. So a very simply written book that's really, really strong.
You're right about it being linked to capitalism because it is the 7 habits of highly effective people.
Yeah.
I mean, to be effective is to do with channeling yourself, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm going all life coach on us now. Oh, I beg your pardon. And finally, we've got The Shape of Things Unseen.
Yeah, so The Shape of Things Unseen is about the science of creativity. I was thinking books for people that maybe have a creative project this year or don't think they're creative but want to try creative things. The author just breaks down the science of creativity, how it works in our brains, like the neuroscience of that sort of creativity, looking at REM sleep, sleepwalking, sort of different aspects of psychology that I thought would be really interesting for someone that has a creative project coming up this year or for someone that doesn't think they're creative. Because it's not true, everyone is.
That's fantastic. And I think there's a way that creativity is so incredibly good for you because it gives you the chance to step back from something and then step back in as a changed person.
Yeah.
I
think so, yeah.
Yeah, and I love the way that creativity can be writing, reading, photography, crafting.
Yeah.
You're a crafter?
A little, more
Yes.
of a painter now.
Oh, lovely. Fantastic. Crochet? Have we got any crocheters in the room?
I bought a little DIY kit yesterday, but I couldn't do it. It was too tricky.
Oh, I'll teach you.
Thank you.
Fantastic. I've really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you very much indeed, panel. Thank you. So that's all for now. You can find out more on our website, nottstvbookclub.com, on Instagram, and find the books themselves in any of Nottingham's libraries and bookshops. Join us next time for a very special show from the D.H. Lawrence Birthplace Museum with a special behind-the-scenes tour, readings and chat about Sons and Lovers, and super special guest Billy Ivory. We'll see you next month. Goodbye.